Hello marketer and welcome to another episode of Lean Mean Marketing Teams. Today is another solo episode, so you'll be joined by me, your host Ty Hayes, a former award-winning CMO turned business founder and advisor to CMOs. And what I want to talk with you about today is how you can break down silos within your marketing team and with other departments, and how you can get everyone working together more efficiently with less waste, so that you and your team feel a little less overwhelmed and you can better handle that hefty workload and respond faster to those changing priorities. If you listened to the last couple of episodes, there has been a theme of how to get more done with less with Jack Phillips and the benefits of adopting agile marketing as a new way of working with Andrea Freire. So today it continues in that vein, but introduces something new to the conversation that hasn't really been covered in detail yet, which is Lean Process Redesign. Now, I know that sounds a little dull, right? It's not as sexy as CX or brand experience or EX or service design, anything like that. But don't tune out just yet. Stay with me. I know as marketers that when we hear process, we hear bureaucracy, red tape, long approvals, governance, boring diagrams, but it doesn't have to be like that. And it doesn't have to have those connotations. In fact, it can also mean the opposite. It can mean fast, efficient, streamlined, customer-centric, collaborative ways of working, which can improve employee engagement and the customer experience. So in this episode, I'm going to cover off why you need to start thinking about how your team works just as much as what they work on and why they do the work they do. I'll then explain what Lean Process Redesign is, including some core principles of Lean, what process mapping is, and lastly, I'm going to share what it entails so you know what's involved to rework some of the processes with your team. If that sounds good, then please stay tuned for more.
Welcome to Lean Mean Marketing Teams with Ty Hayes, where you'll hear from leading CMOs and thought leaders about what it takes to create a high-performance marketing team. This podcast is brought to you by Growth Generators, a consulting firm that helps CMOs design and build modern marketing teams that drive growth. If you need help optimizing your marketing team, head to growthgenerators.io. Now, let's get on to the show.
As a previous CMO, I know that as your team grows, so do the problems. What was simple gets complicated, what was clear gets murky. As you add more teams and more functions and more technology, you suddenly have silos and conflicting priorities. You have different workflows and different workloads. Add to this a mix of stakeholders all wanting different things from your team at the same time, and you kind of feel a little bit like you're in a jungle trying to make your way through the vines, avoiding the quicksand to get to a clear path ahead. Not quite sure what's going to come at you next. To your stakeholders, marketing can even feel like a black box or a black hole. In a very worst case scenario, they fire a brief through some portal, then cross their fingers and hope that what they get back out the other end meets their expectations, their timeframes, and their budget, if they are contributing budget. But what is often lacking is a mutual understanding of those timeframes and the process and what is involved in taking something from brief to in market or live, published, or whatever the final outcome is. Even between marketing teams, there's often a gap in the knowledge about what happens when you pass a baton between teams, why things are done the way they are, why things take the time they do. Well, Lean Process Redesign helps to build a shared understanding, mutual respect, and new way forward by co-designing the process with different members of the team and, where appropriate, other stakeholders. With understanding comes empathy, with empathy comes trust. But the greatest benefits of Lean Process Redesign is that if done properly, it should remove waste in the process and make things faster so you can get more work done in the right way. And I believe this is needed now more than ever. In a recent Marketing State of Play 2021 report by Arctic Fox and Michael Page, it found the biggest challenges marketing leaders and their teams were facing was balancing short and long-term priorities, number one, and resource constraints, number two. In the Gartner 2020-21 annual CMO Spend Survey research, it found that marketing operations was the third most vital marketing capability in 2020, just behind marketing analytics in second place and brand strategy in first place. And in the State of the CMO Report 2020 by CMO Australia, marketing operations and ways of working were the top two areas where CMOs had recently upskilled their teams. In that same report, marketing automation was the number one MarTech priority investment in the next 12 months, well ahead of the next platform priority. And lastly, in the fourth annual State of Agile Marketing report by Agile Sherpas, it also showed that 51% of marketing teams have now adopted Agile marketing compared to ad hoc or traditional approaches, with the top three cited reasons for adoption being one, to enhance the ability to manage changing priorities, number two, improve productivity, and number three, accelerate the delivery of campaigns, programs, and tactics. So what does all this tell us? It tells us that marketing teams are under pressure with more demands being placed on them than ever before. They're under-resourced and they're looking to increase their productivity and efficiency through technology, automation, and ways of working. But here's the thing, right? Unless you analyze and modify your internal processes of your team, you'll struggle to adopt agile marketing. You will not reap all the benefits from your new MarTech investments, and you'll not be able to deliver your CX agenda as effectively. Why? Because how your team works together on a daily basis affects everything. Surely not, I hear say, but think about it. How the work gets done in the team, how work is transferred from one team to the next, how the work comes into the team, how work is assessed, how work is approved, how decisions are made. This affects everything. It affects how teams communicate, how they collaborate, how much ownership and accountability they take, how long things take, which then affects motivation and the employee experience. And employee experience affects productivity, and productivity affects performance. Yet often we don't give it due thought. We kind of expect teams to get on with each other and get the job done. We're often so busy doing the work that we can't possibly spend time thinking about how the work gets done. Kind of reminds me of that cartoon with the wheelbarrow, where there's one team, pushing and struggling with this wheelbarrow with a square wheel. And another person, just single person, cruises by effortlessly pushing the wheelbarrow with a round wheel and asks them if they need help, but they say no thanks, we're too busy. So enough of the rant. What can we do about it? So I'm going to give you a quick intro to Lean Process Redesign. It starts a little theoretically, but hopefully gets a bit more digestible. Lean Process Redesign involves redesigning business processes to gain a competitive advantage from the viewpoint of customer satisfaction and to minimize waste. So put another way, it's about delivering more value to customers while eliminating waste. The new Lean addresses eliminating overburden, inconsistency, and that word waste again, through two pillars of respect for people and continuous improvement. When redesigning internal processes, the customer might be your team or your stakeholders. So it's not exclusively used for processes just relating to a customer-facing experience. Waste in the context of Lean is defined as anything that wouldn't be valued by the customer. In knowledge work, it can be anything from context switching to unnecessary meetings, unnecessary steps in a process, excessive processing of work, like spending too long on tasks, perfecting something to a degree that's unnoticeable to customers. It could be long wait times, could be the dreaded rework loops, and that 10th round of amends. The Toyota production system kind of made lean manufacturing famous, where one of the leaders there had noticed an inventory management system used in supermarkets where items are only replaced as they were used by customers. And then they adopted this in car manufacturing. It was called just in time. So they looked to embrace this, and more lean principles completely changed the game in the way cars were built. Decreased inventory, processing time resulted in faster production with less waste and happier customers. It's since been embraced by all kinds of fields and industries outside engineering and manufacturing. There's a case example I found online for a university that was having big issues in how they were processing PhD applications. Before embracing lean, it was taking 49 days for an applicant to receive a confirmation letter, 50 days to agree funding, and thousands of emails supporting the process. And after embracing lean, they cut the student wait time down 82%, got funding agreed in a day, and there were 50% less emails. So obviously that had a huge impact on how the money was spent and the satisfaction from the students and the staff, not having to deal with so many emails and students getting that offer letter much sooner. So back to these principles of respect for people and continuous improvement. Respect for people means that we operate under the idea that people want to do their best work, and we respect them by allowing them to focus, giving them the autonomy to make decisions, and by not overburdening them, which gives them the ability to deliver the most value to the customer. I think this is really critical for marketing teams, because you might have sales, product, marketing, digital, customer support, brand teams in your department. What each of these teams does can have a direct impact on what a customer sees, hears, and feels about your brand. If staff are dissatisfied, or if there are clunky processes to fix a web issue or handle a complaint or order a product, this will undoubtedly have a knock-on effect on the customer experience and impact those highly coveted NPS scores. Continuous improvement is just about the mindset. You should always be looking to optimize your processes. They're never done, especially in marketing, where we're all about maintaining a competitive advantage. Okay, so that's a bit about the theory, but how do we go about it?
Wow, there's been a lot covered in this interview so far. As a marketing leader, we know you like to spend more time taking action and less time taking notes. So we've got you covered. We packaged up all the tips, strategies, and resources from each episode into some beautifully crafted notes just for you. Not ugly AI-generated transcripts, but real notes taken by a real person on our team. To grab the notes, head on over to growthgenerators.io, look out for this podcast episode, and download the notes. But be quick, they're only live for a few weeks after the episode airs. Now, back to the show.
Well, there's 3 steps in Lean Process Redesign, and they are identify, analyze, modify. So step 1, identify. This involves mapping the current process the way that it is right now, or was the last time it was followed or used. We do this due to a key Lean principle, which is you can't fix what you can't see. So it's only by mapping out the process that you build a shared understanding and can look to identify problems and opportunities. I'm not sure if this is a good analogy, but remember Marie Kondo, the tidying expert from Netflix? I didn't quite watch the whole series, but I remember the first thing she would ask a guest to do when tidying a wardrobe or garage or kitchen is take everything out and put it on the bed or kitchen bench or garage floor. And only then can you sort out what is useful and sparks joy and what can be recycled or binned. It's kind of like that. It's not until you see this huge mass of clothes do you realize that you don't wear half of them anymore and there's so much waste sitting in your closet. It's a bit like that with the process. It's not until you map it out in all its messiness and ugliness you realize, wow, is that why things take so long, or that's how things are done? Till you see it, you can't analyze it and you can't fix it. So step 2 is analyze. So that involves analyzing the process maps, look for moments of friction or moments of opportunity. In pure Lean, we'd be talking about value add, non-value add, but required steps. But that can be a little bit difficult when the processes aren't always customer facing. And lastly, you're looking to modify, which is totally redesign the process from go to woe to remove waste and improve the EX or the CX from the process or deliver a more efficient or better outcome. How do you go about the above? Well, you first need to identify which processes you want to map. When I work with marketing teams on this, I ask them, which are your high value processes that you use frequently that involve multiple teams where you think there's the greatest opportunity to either improve the efficiency, team collaboration, and outcomes from the process. So you're either wanting to improve, that efficiency, effectiveness, productivity, or you want to improve the EX or the CX. And there's processes that are often used and perhaps a little bit mystical at the moment. You want to really clarify them and get them down. I've worked with all kinds of marketing teams to map something as big as how they develop their annual global marketing strategy, involving all different departments at different times to get the right buy-in, through to how they launch campaigns, how applications are managed, how they manage events, through to website updates and more. So it's quite flexible how you can apply this process mapping technique. It all depends on your business and team structure pain points and what you want to optimize. So once you've chosen the processes you want to map, you then need to identify a team member from each team and any relevant stakeholders that play a key part in the process. So say if it's related to an integrated campaign, you might have someone from your campaign or product marketing team, someone from digital, someone from, if they're still separated, of course, someone from content or creative services. If it involves an event, someone from the events team. The key is to have the person from each team that does the actual work from that team in that part of the process. So they know the process intimately. A mistake that's often made is a manager wants to get involved, but they don't know the detail of what actually happens. You really need the boots on the ground to map the current state. Ideally, you want a size of between 3 to 7 people involved in the process. Mapping that one process, I found that if you have more than this, it can become a bit unwieldy. Next, you add process time and lead time for each step. Process time is how long it takes to conduct the step, complete the task, if that is the only work that you are doing with 100% focus. So if a meeting takes 30 minutes, you put 30 minutes. If it takes 2 hours to write a brief, you write 2 hours next to the sticky note on the butcher's paper. Lead time is how long it takes considering everything else you have on your plate and any other variables, like when certain meetings take place. Say, for example, the person you need to meet is incredibly busy and it usually takes 5 days to get in their diary. Well, the lead time for that step is 5 days. Or if something needs to go to, say, a creative council or a committee meeting, which only happens every 2 weeks, then the lead time might be 2 weeks. You don't include the processing time in your lead time calculation. You continue to map out the process with the contributions of all team members as best you can. You then tally up the lead time and the process time and you see the discrepancy. It's not uncommon to see some lead times might be a year for a major project. And for other campaigns, you might see a lead time of 5 months where the actual processing time is less than 1 week. So you want to tally up the total processing time, total lead time, and then total time, which is a combination of both of those scores. You then end up with something you can see and therefore something you can fix. In the next phase, analyze. You start looking for those moments of friction and moments of magic. I do this by asking the team to look for where there are multiple rework loops or steps with really long lead times or really high processing time. We also do a fishbone analysis or a 5 whys to go deeper into the analysis and identify root causes, but I won't go into detail on that here. Lastly, armed with all the insights of how the process is currently done, how long it takes, what the moments of friction and opportunity are, You then brainstorm some ideas to improve it, and you go about redesigning the process. Put the process title at the top and future state next to it, put in your swim lanes, and start the process of mapping it out again. Hopefully removing steps, removing over processing, removing unnecessary improvals. You might add in the right kinds of collaboration at the right times, add in any governance that might have been missing. So you might have actually been missing some critical approvals or steps that you needed to add back in. And you build it with the combined new shared understanding from all parties involved. You even add in the ideal process time and lead time, so you can come to an agreement about how long each stage in the process will take, so you can better manage your stakeholders. You come out with a map outlining all the steps, all the stages, and how long this process will take. And I've often found in these workshops, that is where the shared understanding really helps. And when marketing teams can see, wow, it takes 6 months for this to go from here to here, because there's so many teams involved, because of the approval loops, because of the lead times. And that's why we're under pressure when a brief comes in and they expect us to do it in 1 or 2 months, because they're not aware of what's involved to make this happen. So just seeing what's involved is really useful, and then seeing, well, how can we get it from 6 months down to 2 months or 3 months or 6 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever that is the opportunity that's in front of you. Now, it's hard work, it's intensive work. I've seen teams really drained at the end of this, but I believe it's really important work. The benefits I've seen include increased team communication, understanding and cross-department collaboration, improved onboarding, improved employee experience and engagement, improved stakeholder management. It also decreases risk by not just having key processes in people's heads, all that corporate knowledge if that person leaves. And depending on the process, it can also improve your customer experience. You can then take your new process map and put the steps into Rike or Monday, Trello, whatever you're using, so you know how things flow from one step to the next, from one team to the next, who the decision makers are, and when things are likely to happen. I know how big a pain point resourcing and prioritization is for CMOs and marketing teams, so I'm always looking for ways to help you do your best work. I just hope you learned something today and you found that useful. Let me know. Send me an email to ty@growthgenerators.io. And of course, if you need any help with doing this for your team, then please get in touch. Make sure you get the notes as well. If this was of interest, download them and I'll have a bit of a summary of what was discussed. Hope that was useful, and thank you for listening.
You've been listening to Lean Mean Marketing Teams with Ty Hayes. If you love the show, please remember to hit subscribe so that you can discover more tips and strategies to build a high-performance marketing team. And if you're feeling generous, please tell someone about the show who you think would benefit. We're on a mission to help CMOs build their dream team and enable marketers to do their best work. And we appreciate your help in spreading the word.